The abandoned halls of Hotel Del Salto stood in eerie silence. The grand architecture, now a decaying skeleton of its former self. The walls, once pristine, were now stained with the ghostly imprint of the many souls who had leaped to their deaths. The air was thick with the weight of sorrow, and those who dared to enter often spoke of whispers, shadows, and an overwhelming sensation of being watched. It was on a stormy October night that investigative journalist Mateo Ríos decided to spend the night inside the hotel. Armed with a camera and an insatiable curiosity, he hoped to document the strange occurrences that plagued the ruins. Locals warned him to stay away, telling tales of an entity that lured visitors to the edge of the falls. Ignoring their warnings, Mateo ventured in. As he walked through the empty corridors, he heard the distant echo of laughter, the voices layered, as if belonging to multiple people. When he turned a corner, he saw fleeting shadows dancing against the dim light cast by the moon. He reassured himself it was only the wind playing tricks. Midnight struck, and the air grew thick with an unseen presence. Mateo set up his camera in what used to be the grand ballroom, its dusty chandeliers swaying ever so slightly, despite the lack of wind. He reviewed his footage, and froze. In the corner of his screen, an apparition. A woman in a flowing white dress standing at the edge of the balcony. With a racing heart he turned to look, and she was there. "Why do you seek the dead?" she whispered, her voice a mixture of sadness and menace. Mateo stumbled back, gripping his camera. "Who are you?" he stammered. She lifted her pale hand and pointed toward the cliffs. "Come see, come leap, join us." A gust of freezing air wrapped around him, pushing him toward the balcony. He felt an invisible force tighten around his wrists. His legs moving against his will. Panic surged through him. He fought back, but his body was no longer his own. The voices began to rise, a cacophony of despair and longing. Shadows emerged from the walls, their hollow eyes fixated on him. The woman stepped closer, revealing a face with no eyes, no mouth, just an empty, smooth void. "The falls call for you," she murmured, and suddenly Mateo saw it. The final moments of those who had leaped before him. A priest, whispering desperate prayers before taking the fatal step. A young woman, tear-streaked, whispering the name of her lost love. A man, clutching his chest as if trying to hold his soul in place. Mateo gasped. He was on the edge now, toes curling over the stone railing. He screamed, but the wind swallowed his voice. Then, a flash of light. A camera flash. His own camera, set on automatic. The sudden burst of light sent the apparitions recoiling. The force gripping him loosened, and Mateo fell backward onto the cold floor, gasping for air. He grabbed his camera and bolted from the ballroom, running through the decayed halls as the shadows chased him, their whispers turning into screams. He didn't stop until he was outside, collapsing onto the damp earth. The hotel loomed behind him, its windows glowing for just a second, before darkness consumed them once more. Mateo never spoke of that night, but his footage remained, a single frame of the eyeless woman reaching toward the camera, and behind her, an endless line of figures, their empty faces turned toward the falls, waiting for the next guest to arrive. And the next guest came. Weeks later, a group of thrill seekers and ghost hunters found Mateo's abandoned camera near the entrance of the hotel. Curious, they played the last recorded footage, expecting eerie sounds and misty apparitions. Instead, they saw Mateo, standing motionless in the grand ballroom, his back to the camera. He turned slowly. His eyes were gone, his mouth stretched open in a silent scream. The footage ended abruptly, but the screen did not go black. Instead, it flickered back on, showing a live feed of the very room they stood in. A new figure had joined them. One of them screamed as a shadow loomed behind her. The camera hit the ground, recording only muffled cries and the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. The next morning, authorities found their car parked outside the hotel, the doors wide open. Inside the hotel, nothing remained but a single camera, playing its final clip on a loop. An empty ballroom, its chandeliers swaying slightly, and the distant sound of laughter growing ever closer. Days later, another thrill seeker arrived, drawn by the mystery. He too vanished. And the next. And the next. The hotel remained, standing against time, feeding on curiosity, despair, and the desperate need to understand the unknowable. The whispers grew louder. The shadows stretched further, and the falls called, waiting for more. Then one evening, a new traveler arrived. An elderly man dressed in black, his face lined with age and wisdom. Unlike the others, He did not carry cameras or equipment. He walked the halls slowly, his fingers brushing the decayed walls, his lips murmuring an ancient prayer. As he reached the grand ballroom, the shadows recoiled. The laughter turned to whispers, and then to silence. He stepped to the edge of the balcony, looking over the falls, his expression unreadable. "No more," he said softly. Then from the darkness the woman in white appeared once more, her eyeless face tilted as if in recognition. "You do not belong here," she whispered. The man smiled sadly. "Neither do you." He raised a small vial, pouring its contents onto the stone floor. The liquid shimmered, sending ripples of golden light through the hotel. The walls groaned, the shadows writhed, and the voices of the lost souls screamed in protest. A great wind swept through the halls, rattling the chandeliers. The laughter turned to wails, then to silence. And then, nothing. The hotel stood still, the air lighter, the weight of sorrow lifting for the first time in centuries. The man turned and walked away, leaving the suicide hotel behind. The legends remained, the stories endured, but never again would another soul be claimed by the haunted halls. And as the sun rose over the falls, for the first time in 100 years, the hotel was truly empty.